Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. Tonight we're going to be painting one of my favorite subjects, tea and roses. So yeah, I'll show you start to finish how to paint this beautiful kind of soft floral teacup with some roses. Got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's been in chat during our live stream, so you can ask questions and we'll try to answer. Let's get started. All right, so I have prepped my canvas. I've got a 10 by 10 inch little canvas here. This is the Fredrix Red Label, and I've painted it with a very light coat of Naphthol Pink, which is Naphthol Red Light and White. So if you don't have that particular color, if you have a light red, even Cadmium Red Light would probably work. Might be a little bit more orangey, but it wouldn't hurt anything. And some white. And I used a paper towel and some matte medium and some water and thinned it down and put it on really thin and wiped it mostly off with the paper towel. So very thin coat of that. You can see the difference there in the color. It's not nearly as intense as it is straight out of the tube. Just a little tiny bit of pink there. All right, you get the idea. I don't know why I'm going on for so long. All right. Yeah, so I've done that. I've kind of sketched out roughly where we're going to put our roses using just regular chalk here. And let's go over colors. I've got burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, India yellow hue, pyrrole orange. This one is that Naphthol pink, and this one is the Naphthol red light. It's a fluid, so it kind of spread out there. Quinacridone Magenta. So if you don't have this Naphthol red, you can mix something very similar with the Pyrrole orange and the Quinacridone Magenta. But since we were going to use it so much and I used it in the background, I went ahead and put it out for tonight. Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Turquois. If you don't have Phthalo Turquois, you can use Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green to mix that. And Green Gold. Again, another kind of mixture color. So if you don't have green gold, you can use a phthalo green and a yellow, or your phthalo, just a tiny touch of the phthalo turquoise with some yellow to get that green gold. Unbleached titanium, titanium white, gloss or satin glazing liquid. All right.
Let's do this.
Yes, let's do it.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Glad you're here. We're welcome. If you're new to our channel, hope you stick around and subscribe. We been teaching for over 10 years now on YouTube here, most every Tuesday night live. Lots and lots and lots of long form videos for you with full instructions, start to finish, so you can see the whole process. I have not painted this ahead of time, so we're going to get to figure it out together as we go tonight. That's the fun of it. It's always an adventure.
For you.
Hopefully. Yeah.
I just kind of sit over here.
That's right. Mark takes chat. And,
make sure I'm zoomed in or zoomed out when I'm supposed to be.
right. And keep track of the chat and questions and all that stuff.
All right.
All right. So as far as brushes go, you probably want a Filbert for some of the rounded petals. So if you've got a Filbert, grab that. I'll use an angle brush for some of the leaves, and a round brush for some of the smaller details, especially in the teacup. And I've got a blender also for some blending. These are all Princeton brushes, the Aspen or the black handles, the 6100 series and VelvetTouch line. And then I've got a 10 bright to start with here. We'll start with the 6100 series. Get a little bit of water on the brush, dab it off. And I'm just going to paint kind of around the subject and kind of block in the main parts of my teacup. So I think I want to start with making a gray, because there's a lot of gray in the teacup especially. So this time I think I'm going to use the burnt sienna with my ultramarine blue and see if I can get a little bit softer, not as black gray, a little bit more gray, maybe a little bit more brownish. And then we can add more blue to it, or even give it a little bit of turquoise, maybe. Okay. So you can see that actually looks almost like burnt umber as it is now. I'm going to add just a little bit of the turquoise. There we go. Which would be kind of like a phthalo blue and a similar to a phthalo blue and burnt sienna color, which makes teal, but that ultramarine blue will keep it from being too teal. I think that'll be good gray. If you want to see what the undertone is, you can add a little bit of white. Just grab up some little bit of white and look at that. It's like almost a perfect gray right there. I need to remember that combo. That is a solid gray. So I do want it to lean a little bit greenish blue. So I probably will be adding a little bit more teal to that, but I'm just going to leave that as my black to start with. That is way more just solid gray than I expected it to be, honestly. This is more, I think, just a plain gray than I can even get with the burnt umber and ultramarine blue. So I need to remember that. Burnt sienna, ultramarine, and the phthalo turquoise for this kind of just completely neutral gray. All right, that's nice. Scrape that off. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some turquoise and some of our yellow oxide here, and then so kind of equal parts, maybe a little bit more the yellow than the turquoise, and then a pretty good chunk of unbleached titanium, and mix those three together to get a light green. And then we'll use this in our background with our neutrals. It's a pretty color, isn't it? Just starting out mixing colors tonight. That's a fun start. I love mixing colors and seeing what happens when you do different color combos. It's a little bit different palette than I normally use, so it's kind of interesting. I'm going to try to change it up a little bit. I'm going to get some yellow oxide and a little bit more of the India yellow, that is, or a little bit more yellow oxide and some India yellow, and I'm going to take some of that color that I just made, that green, and kind of do like an equal part of all three of those. And then I think I'm going to add some burnt sienna to it. Make it a little bit more brown. Okay, so I think that'll be close to the color that I want for that background. It's just like a slightly greenish yellow, like ivory color back there. So this will be our kind of base color. And then we'll use our white and our off-white to mix with this. All right, so we've got a good start here. Let's go ahead and get going. So wetting that brush down, I'm going to spray these. You can see I scraped them all up so that they're in a concentrated spot. The more you flatten out your paints, the quicker they'll dry. So even when I pull from my paint puddle, I'm still trying to leave the thickest amount of it. I'm not like pulling it off the top. I'm kind of pulling it from the side so that there's still going to be like a thick bit of paint, and it just helps it to last longer on the palette. All right, so I'm going to grab that off-white, that Unbleached Titanium, which is just titanium white with a little bit of yellow oxide, a little bit of burnt umber, and a little bit of black. Tiny bit of black. All right, I'm going to get that yellow that we just did. Oh yeah, that's a pretty color in it. That's almost spot on. Boom, right up against it. Just a little bit lighter, but we did good, I think.
Seems like you might know what you're doing.
Sometimes. When it comes to mixing paints, it's I enjoy the challenge of that. It's really fun to me to kind of try to break down the what colors. And there's many different ways that we can get to this color. You know, we could have done in many different, you know, color combinations to get something similar, but which is what I like about this palette. Most of the paints that I use are single pigment colors, and that way you can blend them or mix colors that are very clean and get really good results with your color mixing, and predictable results, I guess I should say. So I'm using that in my corners. I think we nailed that color spot on. Look at that. I mean, really close. Maybe a little bit more brownish, but I think when it dries, it'll dry darker. So we'll see what happens. Pretty good. All right. So I'm going to cover most of this up. I'm just going to kind of leave my big roses. There's these 3 roses here, and then the teacup, and then the saucer kind of goes off the bottom, which I thought about moving it up, but honestly, I don't really want to, I don't have the reference for that bottom part, so I'm not going to try to figure out. I'm just going to go with it here. I added some gray there. That's actually really nice. I'm going to add a little bit more. Do this side with a little bit of the gray. It's actually a little bit more blue when, or it turns a little bit more green when you add it to that yellowish or the more unbleached titanium, so that's nice. It's got a little bit of that green in it that I wanted. That's a really pretty color. Okay. Get a little bit more of that. Getting a little bit darker in my corners. And just kind of working wet into wet. You could see I kind of started over here and just kind of worked my wet edge. So just making sure that I'm constantly working in and blending out those wet edges so that I'm not having to go try to blend over areas that are drying. And I'm going to use this green, added a little bit of my gray, light gray, to it for the inside of this teacup. That might be a little high. So this is going to be an oval shape, so it's going to go like this behind our teacup that's kind of cutting in front. So just make sure you're making this kind of flat oval shape here with it. And that it, you know, connects here to here visually. Okay, let's go ahead and do this bottom edge. Okay. I'm just leaving a little bit of that pink there to fix later. Gonna get some of that unbleached titanium and kind of cut out that shape a little bit better. Right there. A little bit more flat on the bottom there, back side there. Okay, we'll see. Right, I'm going to get some of that green and get maybe a little bit of teal. I'm going to do the cup inside. This is a little bit more green than I want it to be, but I'll fix it later. For now, we'll just use it to help define our teacup. Okay, something like that. Somewhere in there. And get more of that unbleached titanium and just cut out around it. Okay. I'm kind of using some of that green to kind of slightly, you know, just indicate some, maybe some leafy bits or something like that. Okay, very soft. It's a little bit, you can see how like it needs to go down into the teacup more. Like it's a little floating right now. So it needs to definitely come down. It probably the flowers need to start about here. Like somewhere in there needs to be the top of it. And then it needs to go down a little bit more into the cup. Or the saucer, I should say. Teacup needs to go down into the saucer more. So instead of doing that rounded shape right there, I'm just going to flatten it out almost straight. Just slightly curved. Okay, that's better. All right. Not bad. It doesn't look like much yet, but it will. We'll get it there.
No, but you can already see the pastel-y colors in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty color palette. This is a little bit more soft than I normally do. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit kind of blendy and dreamy looking. Go a little bit darker over here. Now it's starting to get sticky because this background color is not quite dry yet. It's starting to dry, and so I need to leave all of this alone. So we can go in here and do some stuff with our flowers while the rest of that is drying. And then we'll come back to it. So let's go ahead and give it some depth. We do need a little bit of contrast in here. And you can see there's a lot of contrast, especially along this area here. If we did black and white, we can see that our flower on this side, both of these flowers are pretty dark. The centers are really dark. There's a little dark spot right in here. And on the inside of this flower, but not as dark as the insides of these two. And then this side of the teacup is dark, and this side over here. So we have a lot of darker values that we need to add here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my magenta and a little bit of that red Pyrrole, or this is the, not Pyrrole, Naphthol red. Naphthol red light specifically. You could use, again, you could use Pyrrole red, you could use cadmium red. Really, they're all kind of pretty close to the same. The lights, you know, are all in that orangey range, and then the regular mediums are kind of in the mid-tone range. I don't generally get the deep colors. I just usually add either black or brown or even green to darken up my reds, so I don't usually get the deep. Okay, there we go. Nice and dark. So this is going to be our first rose, and we're going to be offsetting it up this way. Let's just kind of mark out our darkest area there, and then we'll do kind of another dark area there for that one. And then our orangey one is kind of our orangey rose. Here is going to have, going to use burnt sienna and yellow. I probably added a little bit too much orange, so just a little bit of orange with this India yellow and burnt sienna. some of that pink. And I'm going to mix it in with that orangey color that I just did. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of block in some of the dark oranges that I'm seeing with this flower here. And there'll be lighter petals that come up around it and get a little bit more of the reddish color. Use that on this one, on the inside of the flower, kind of a glowing red. And then this one over here, maybe a little bit more of the magenta with the red on the inside. And then definitely more just straight up magenta, almost purple for the dark tones in this one. This would have been one that good to do last week for Valentine's Day. I didn't even think about it. Kind of missed out on that opportunity, but that's okay. This is for any time of the year. And if you're part of our newsletter, if you haven't joined our newsletter, you can do that at my website. It's thankfulart.com. Also, can you put up the website? Also at thankfulart.com you can see all of the other teacup. If you just search for teacup or tea, and teapots will come up, and all of this whole series that I have. There's a bunch of different tutorials in this theme. This is the third, I think, teacup, but I have several teapots that I have with flowers in them in this particular kind of series too. So good ones to check out if you're interested in this theme. But you can also sign up for our newsletter there, and we sent out today with the newsletter, we sent out the playlist link that has, here on YouTube, there's a playlist, if you go to my playlist list, that has all the different teacup tutorials that are free. If you go to my website, you can see it'll have a mix of the free ones and the challenge and bonus tutorials that we've done with this theme. So it's a few more that aren't on YouTube. They're listed on my website. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just go straight in and start adding a little bit of this lighter tones here. I'm just adding my white to this orange. This was Naphthol red with the Pyrrole orange and yellow, and then it started out with the India yellow and burnt sienna over here with a little bit of the orange, and then it kind of morphed with us adding a little bit more of the Naphthol red. So this one has kind of that yellow and the red, and there's a little bit more red over here. So this one is kind of just a mid-orange, really. I'm going to start to kind of lock in a little bit of my light orange around the top here. We're going to keep these pretty soft. So just going to do that to kind of block it in a little bit. All right, and we'll do the petals for this one later, and this one and this one. I just kind of wanted to do the top part of that so we have it defined, so we can do our leaves and things around it.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Quick, somebody missed the beginning. So
Okay.
what was the purpose for doing the canvas all in that pinkish color?
Because we had so much pink in our reds, in our roses, and that's our main focal point. And so I wanted that color kind of shining through in other places, so you can see it is barely gonna, just peek through in places. We're gonna mostly cover it up, but it just gives a kind of a glow to the painting. And anytime I'm doing kind of a neutral, if you don't do like a warm color underneath, I feel like the neutral kind of falls flat and it looks more dull. So if you do kind of a warmer, either pink or yellow or orange underneath, when you're doing like a neutral gray or neutral beige background, it gives it a little bit more vibrancy to me. I just like it. You don't have to do it if you don't want it but I like the way it looks. So it's just barely peeks through where the paint is a little bit thin, you know, where we do the background. So just gives it a little bit of a glow. All right, let me get the turquoise now and some of our gray. And we're going to do our darkest parts of our teacup around my rose here, kind of around both of these, and in here. Just find that top edge of the teacup, and I'm just going to kind of go across there. And then there's a little bit back here. I'll just go ahead and do. A little bit this way. I'm going to get that green gold, mix that in with this, use that up here. It's a little bit more of a warmer green where the light's hitting it. Okay. All right. And I'm using the blender here to just give it soft fuzzy edges. And then where these two meet right here, I'm just going to get a little bit of my background color, or get something as close to my background color as I can. And just blend back over this. Right there, get a little bit of that green. And you can use your finger if you want to, but just sort of, that's how you blend it off to make it soft and kind of disappear a little bit. Just make sure you've got that background color. And that's why I mixed up so much of that background color, because I knew I was going to want to have it for this part to kind of soften off these edges and make them look fuzzy. Just where they're going off the edge. Okay. We'll add more details to these and add leaves and things, but this is just going to give us a nice kind of soft base to start from.
We got a message that Noah and Spency say hi.
Oh, hi, Noah and Spency. That's awesome. Our youngest, Spencer, is moved to live with my oldest son and his family. Noah's our 2-year-old granddaughter, so she's watching. She likes to watch us Gigi paint. Hi, Noah. Hope you're doing some art today, too. She's a very good drawer. All right. She's super happy to have her Uncle Spency living with them. I miss them.
And some buddies here aren't happy that he's gone.
No, yeah, our dog Fitzy is just about every day. It's like, really?
Where do you
He's
go?
still not back?
What? Yeah, Angela said his name last night.
Oh yeah,
And he looked over at his bedroom door, like expecting him to come out.
I know.
It was
It was so sad. Yeah, I told Mark, I was like, I think Fitzy's missing Spencer, and his head popped up. What? Spencer? No, so cute. And we went away for 3 weeks to England and France, in September last year. And Spencer, they were close before that, but that really solidified it. And he kind of decided, well, I guess I'm Spencer's dog now. And so it was like everything Spencer did, he mirrored him like he used to do me, And then Spencer moved out. So it's just like, it's hard on the pets when the kids move out. It's just as hard on the parents, obviously, but it's really hard on the pets. All right, so I'm adding this turquoise here. This is turquoise blue and a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of white. I'm trying to go a little bit darker here on this edge and on the dark side of my painting. Light's coming from here. Everything kind of on this side is a little bit darker. And I'm not too worried about the lip because we'll be adding that in later. So just mainly trying to get that color in there and keeping it pretty fuzzy still. I'm not gonna get super detailed with this. But then I do want to get a little bit of that darker color on the mug down here. So it's almost kind of teal in the picture, but it's darker. Wipe that off. Get a little bit of that gray with a little bit of that black. Maybe get into some of this that had the green in it, like that. There we go. And just blend out that blue. Scraping that paint on. It's nice. The blender is nice. You don't have to add a lot of paint here. You can really kind of just use that brush to push the paint around where you want it to go. And get a little bit of that black to add to that gray. I'm going to use it down here for our bottom of our teacup. And this side over here. This is the saucer, not the teacup. There. I'm using a little bit lighter color on this side. I'm just putting it on while it's wet so that everything kind of blends together. Right. And then over here I want a little bit more of a warmer tone, so I'm going to get my Unbleached Titanium, maybe a little bit of Burnt Umber. Still had a little bit too much of that blue in there. Okay, we'll just let that dry and add some of that lighter tone in there later, because I even see like a little bit of like almost a yellowish burnt sienna color. You get a little bit of that yellow, that color there. Add a little bit more burnt sienna, and just add it right there at the rim and pull it down. And this is going to be the color of that gold that goes along the rim of that teacup saucer all the way across. All right, then right there I'm going to have to switch to a smaller brush because this brush is nice, but it's not precise. So I'm going to have a smaller round to do this lip here. So I'm going to stick with that color that I was just using, maybe a little bit more brownish tone. So we'll start there. And I don't want to come up too far. I just want to come up kind of around a little bit and go up about, I don't know, maybe a ½ inch. So somewhere in there. And then, actually let me use a T-square. That way I know I'm getting it straight. So somewhere there and somewhere there. And then I'm coming out about 1.5 inches-ish from the teacup. A little bit less than 1.5 inches. Well, I guess it is if you do it like that. Yeah, so about 1.5 inches from the edge of the teacup to the saucer. Is that right? Yeah, 1.5 inches, okay. So the saucer should come out to about right there. That doesn't look right, does it? That's why I measure though, because it's funny how it kind of can fool the eye. Nope, that's right. Okay. Which we kind of have it there. We just haven't done that edge of the saucer yet. And put that up too. Okay. So there we go. So that back rim is almost straight. It just curves like right here and here. And this line should be level. That's why we use that T-square. So it should, like, you know, be cut off by that cup in front. All right, looks good. Did it. Yay.
Math.
I did it right this time. I didn't just like guess. Most of the time I just kind of wing it and then it looks a little off. So if you use a ruler, it kind of helps keep you on track. All right, so I'm going to grab some of that burnt umber, unbleached titanium mixture that had that kind of these yellows and things in it, that burnt sienna and yellow, the color I use for the rim, and just add some of this gray to it. I'm going to use that on the inside here. Need a little bit darker. Just want it a little bit darker than what it is right now. And just kind of pull down. And that looks good. Okay, and then on this side, I'm going to go a little bit darker still. Maybe even add a little bit of the black. Then as it goes down into the cup, it's catching light, so it's not dark all the way. Just wanting to make sure that those are kind of the same color, and you can see how that background color back there, we've kind of missed the edge of the cup there. So I'm gonna get some of that background color and just put that back there. And just so that it doesn't look like an outline, what you want to do is just pull it up and just kind of try to blend it out into what's already there. So that color is not the only place where it is. That way you don't have to match it necessarily. You just have to kind of add it other places around that and it'll blend in. Smush it around. And you could even, if it's really noticeable, you can take that color that you used and add it in multiple other places, to kind of help. Okay, gonna get some burnt sienna here, a little bit of burnt umber, and use it on this side of my saucer. And again, just kind of pull it in. I'm kind of not worried about there being streaks necessarily, as long as they kind of go with the shape of the cup. So pretty happy with that. I'm gonna get some unbleached titanium and some of my gray. And just use it on this side. This kind of almost just does a diagonal in, so I probably need to make sure that these are equally spaced. So I've got that. I'm gonna go to the quarters, so there, and then if that's my center-ish. This is my center. This should be the center of my teacup. So then I just want to make sure that I'm kind of equal parts, ending around equal parts. So this needs to come out a little bit because we're at the kind of 3/4 mark here. So I need to be kind of out towards the 3/4 mark on this side. Come right in here. Like that. All right, so now we've got a teacup that is symmetrical. I don't know where did I put my center there? So I need to make sure that the same thing is up here. So there's 2 inches, just past 2 inches, so 2 1/4. There's 2 inches, 2 1/4. Yeah, so we kind of did okay on the top part.
Man, you're pretty good.
2 1/4-ish. And getting the, thank you, hon. Sorry, didn't mean to
That's okay.
ignore you. Was just
I know you're doing
trying to
math.
think.
You're mathing over there. So.
Exactly. I need all my full brain concentration for math, for mathing. Okay, so something in there-ish. I need to bring that down and down a little bit more. The shape is not right, so this one I kind of come down and then go in. Plus I have that turquoise down a little bit. I'm going to put the handle right there so I'm not worried about it. So I need to have this kind of come straight down a little bit more. And then curve around. Spray my paints, they're starting to get a little sticky.
Yeah. Somebody had posted that in chat there just a couple minutes ago.
Oh, really?
I was going to say something, but you were mathing, so I was
Thank
trying to
you.
let you go as long as possible.
Yeah,
They got your back.
thank you. Yeah, you can tell when I get going here, you know, you don't water your paint or spray your paint enough as often enough. It just,
It doesn't grow.
no, gets sticky.
Oh, it's sticky, sorry.
All right, it doesn't grow. Exactly, that too. I think I need to, I think I didn't bring my teacup is a little too, the saucer is a little bit too big, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and put the bottom of it on, I think. Just keeping it rounded.
So you'll have one guess of where teacups originated.
England. Russia? India?
Oh my gosh.
China.
Mexico. It's China.
China. Yeah, that makes sense. China. I don't, if I thought about it for a second. I thought it was a trick question because you were like, you know.
No.
Like, so obvious.
And the saucers too, but they came a little bit later. But the handles came from Europe.
Oh, really?
In the 19th century.
Interesting.
They're like, we done burning our fingers.
Mm-hmm. Did not know that. Okay, I did all that work getting it symmetrical, and then I just painted over it all. There we go. I think that's probably pretty close. that's going to look a little bit better. So I'm going to have to darken up underneath it, obviously, to fix it. But it was too tall or too long. It didn't look right. Okay. We'll let that set. Well, let's go back to our florals. This is all nice and dry now. So let's put in some leaves around our flowers. So leaves are pretty easy. You can do them a couple different ways. I guess I'll use this one. The way I learned to do flowers way back when I'm gonna have to, let me do this first. Let me spray off my thing here and scrape off all this paint. Got no place to mix my colors. This is a glass palette. I get questions about it a lot. It's called, the brand is Posh. Somebody sent it to me, so I'm not exactly sure how much they cost, but
they're in your Amazon store.
They are in my Amazon store. And this one is bigger than what you see here. I think it's 16 by 12, maybe?
Yeah, because all the water and the paper towels on top
Are
of it
sitting
also.
on top of it, yeah.
And at first, you weren't that excited about it.
No, it does dry a little bit faster than my paper palettes did. So it takes a little bit getting used to. But now I'm used to it, and this part of it is really great because I can continue working without having to transfer my paint onto another palette. Makes it really convenient. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. All right, so spot, there we go. So a couple different ways to do leaves. I'm going to use the green, gold, and turquoise here to make a dark green. Get a little bit of water. I'm going to use an angle brush. And for these leaves, what you can do is kind of pull down your center just to kind of have an idea of where it's going to go. And then you're going to set the point facing up and just kind of turn the brush out just a little bit. So I'm going to start at the point, but I'm just going to kind of press down and pivot just that part. Leave the back end where it is. So just push out with your thumb and then just kind of wiggle and walk it down that line like that. And then I'm going to start at this point and pivot it the other direction and walk it down. And then I'll end up with a leaf kind of like that. The other way that you can do is just set your brush down close to wherever the flower is. So say my flower is here. I can set it down like this, and I can push out and twist this way and kind of end with a point. And then if I want it wider, I can kind of bring it back like that. Another way is to use a round brush or a filbert brush. Round brush, a little bit different. With round brush, you can just kind of plop it down and it will already be the shape that you want it to be, but pretty much. So the round brush, you kind of set your brush, your leaf down like this. Press it down, and however long you want that to go, you can just pull it out, and then as you lift, you kind of just pull that shape, or you can just plop it down and pull a little bit to try to get a little bit of a nubbin on it, or point the tip out and plop it down this way and get a little shape, use the brush. This brush is being a little lazy on me. It's not bouncing back to its original shape very well for me. But if you got a good brush, it'll kind of bounce back into your shape for you. And then with the Filbert brush, what you can do is do a half twist. Sounds like a gymnastics thing.
I was going to say gymnastic or diving.
Diving, yeah. Double half twist.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, so you press your brush
Is that
flat.
a full twist?
Full twist with a half
Is it
double.
Double half twist?
Double half twist, yeah.
Math.
All right. So you're going to start here and end here. And you're just going to get your brush there by kind of half twisting it. I'm holding it pretty loosely, and I'm just going to roll it with my thumb here. It takes a little bit of practice, but that's what these paper, notebooks are for. So you're going to set it there, and you're going to twist it and end it like that. And these are kind of the most satisfying once you get the feel for them, because you can do them pretty quick. And you can just flick out a bunch of leaves all at once, and then you can come back in and add your stems to them. They're a little bit different looking. You can get a similar look to that, by just kind of doing it like this on either side, doing two kind of pointy ones. But anyhow, you get the idea. So I'm going to just go around here and do some of these different leaves. I'm going to get some of that green background color, a little bit of that green gold. I already have that turquoise in the brush, but I kind of wanted a little bit more of a muted green. That looks good. And I'll probably come back in with some darker colors, but this has already kind of started for me, so I don't have to do too much here. But I'm just going to add a few little leaves, flick them out. There's going to be a little flower or something right there, so these are pretty dark on this side, so I don't need to get too fussy with it. And another little rosebud's going to go there. Some of these are going to have to go on after, so this leaf is like on top of this flower here. So I'll come back in and add more of it. Once I get it done, maybe get a little bit of the white. Maybe some of that background yellow. Got some water droplets on there. Yeah, there we go. So I want a color that's similar to my background that's going to kind of help it sort of fade out. Okay, just coming back in with some darker colors to kind of add a second tone to it. Didn't want to do it. Okay. And I can make my own kind of olive green with ultramarine blue and yellow. Ultramarine being so kind of purpley makes a really nice neutral green, so it's a good one to kind of add in here in some places where we're trying to get those neutral tones going. Okay. And then I'm going to use my liner brush and just kind of run some little veins off that will add some little leaves and things too. Just by dabbing my brush down in different directions. Making sure that all the leaves have a stem out to them if they're sticking out, you know. Just a little dibby dabs. Okay, we can add more later. How's everybody doing? Following along okay so far?
I think so, yeah.
So far so good. Okay. Good deal.
We got dibby dabs,
Dibby dabs, yes.
some nubbins.
Little nubbins and dibby dabs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the advanced class here.
Bloopity bloops and dibby dabs. All right, so I'm going to get a Filbert. This one is a Dakota. It's a little bit firmer than some of my other ones, but it's like a number 4. It's about 3/8 inch wide or so. The 6100 series one would be similar, but that'll be, I think, what I'm going to use for my flower petals. So we're at 7. Okay, so we've gotten all that done in an hour. That's pretty good. That's actually better than I thought, because I was worried that we weren't going to get this done today. So
I'm kicking butt over here.
we're screaming through this.
Yes, I am.
Huh?
Yes, I am. It's all me.
All right, I'm going to get some gray and mix it with my yellow. That was my background yellow, and a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium. I'm just going to kind of lay this out here. On this side, I want more of my light color. Trying to give a second coat there to that. And then underneath my teacup, I need a dark color. So I'm going to go with my black here. I'm going to go just underneath it and to this side. And I've added that color back there. If our light's hitting us here, then everything kind of on this edge is going to be nice and dark. And this color should be very close in value to whatever is on the teacup right where it touches. So if the teacup is much lighter right here, it'll look out of place. So we need to make sure that the shadow on the teacup and the shadow on the ground are pretty close to the same value. And that way they'll kind of just blend in together and it'll look the way we want it to. If they're too far off, it'll look like our teacup's floating in space, and we don't want that. So you can see how it's just not really blending right there. I'm just going to have to get a little bit more of that gray kind of mid-tone color. Try to add that. And right there where it's just not going to blend, might get a little bit of the a little bit of glaze and thin out that paint a little bit. Just try to get it to push out a little bit. It's sticky right there because it's trying to dry on me. So if I mess with it too much right now, it's just going to keep lifting. So probably need to just leave it alone. I do need to leave it alone. No, probably about it. I'm just trying to get on the outside of it and pull in. Just so I have a softish line there. Using very light pressure here to pull that shadow gray out. Okay, we'll just leave that alone. He's wanting to be finicky. So let's do over here and get that a little bit softer right there. That doesn't need to be that dark right there. It just needs to be dark as it goes around that corner, right up underneath right there. Okay. I think we're good. I got a little bit of that lighter color, so you can see right there that got a little bit light, so I'm going to have to go back in with my dark color. And I'm definitely going to have to add like black right along the bottom there because it is kind of lost its edge there. And let's add some white to our teacup. I'm going to use this gray, just add my white to it and pull down sort of where my highlight is the brightest, and then wipe it out and blend it out. And if I do this fast while it's still wet, I can kind of get soft fuzzy edges. So put it down fairly thick right in the middle where you want it to be brightest, and then just fuzz out those edges a little bit. Okay, so there we go. Let's do it over here on this teacup, right here on this saucer. Right there, and then it's going to kind of blend out to nothing. Wipe my brush out. It's really important to wipe your brush out before you try to blend it out. If you don't, you're just going to be adding more paint to it, and you don't want that. What we want is just to kind of fuzz out the edges. Similar to what you would do with a mop brush, you know, you're just kind of taking that color that we've put down and pushing it around and softening it off. Not going all the way to the edge, just inside a little bit, kind of top half of that. There's a little bit of a highlight kind of down at the bottom. Can pull that in too. Okay. I don't have the photograph for this, so I don't, or down here, you know, so I don't know exactly what it's doing down here. But generally, I think they have like a little lip, you know, where the saucer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's probably a little rim, yeah. There, I'm going to add. Right. Back it a little bit darker right here. Goes down. A little bit.
I noticed that people don't put flowers in coffee cups.
What?
So I noticed that people don't put flowers in coffee cups. Probably because they're always being used for coffee. Teacups seem to not be used as much.
I see. Uh-huh. You're trying to diss tea in a sneaky way here?
I'm just observing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what are these here for? I don't know. Let's put some flowers or potpourri in it or something. Just think, okay.
Gotta use it for something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't drink out of these. For me, I like the mug because the teacups are so thin, they tend to make the tea go cold pretty quickly on me, so I don't tend to use my teacups, my pretty ones, that often, which is a shame because they are very pretty, but plus I'm afraid of breaking them, so I'm pretty clumsy. But you can't put them in the dishwasher too, so I'm lazy that way. Also, there's multiple layers to it. I'm using the burnt sienna and yellow oxide with my white here, and I've added the gray. Just kind of trying to warm up this side of the teacup a little bit. Okay. And then we'll need to put that handle on at some point. I'm kind of procrastinating that, so let's go ahead and do that before it goes too far, too much farther. So a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of turquoise. Yeah, because I've got my flowers in the way now. Didn't really think about that. If you see he's sighing over there. Getting a little bit of that turquoise color, adding that to the underside. All right. And then we'll add our gold when we add the gold to the rest of it. I'm gonna come back in with my turquoise and add a little more of it. All right. Not bad. Coming along. Let's go ahead and add our yellow, India yellow, and yellow oxide, and then a little bit of burnt umber. Just kind of like a bronzy gold color. I use that on the lip of the teacup. Going across. And also on the top of the handle. And then we've already kind of got it on the rim, but I'm going to go a little bit darker, burnt umber, and kind of go just underneath where I did that gold before. And I'm kind of bobbling my brush stroke a little bit so that it's wiggling. And go kind of just underneath where we did that gold there. Should go right up to the dark part of the teacup. Make sure that you've got that dark all the way to the top of that teacup edge there, so that it doesn't look right, or doesn't look funny. All right. And let's use this gold on the turquoise itself. And I'm just going to kind of do some random patterns, try to kind of repeat myself kind of generically. There. And then get the yellow and my white, mostly white. Isn't that amazing? So fun. Just Just little tiny dots. And I'm gonna stop there. That's sort of where the light's hitting. This part's not getting that light hitting on it. So I'm gonna put some of this in. Light bits to make it look gilded. Just that little bit of bright color. And leaving little gaps helps too. All right, gonna put a little bit on that back side too. Nice. And then getting a little bit kind of a mid-tone. So it's light, but it's not as light. Let me use that in my, whoops, it's still a little bit too dark, too bright. So maybe just like yellow oxide instead of there we go. Kind of a, can see the difference. Kind of a warmer. Maybe like a burnt sienna. Just a little bit of highlight maybe right there. Coming around. Okay. And then getting some of that kind of beigey or gold. I'm gonna mix some random patterns on my teacup itself. You can be as detailed as you want to be. Get yourself your teacups at home, and I think the main thing is just to not over detail things. Just little tiny dibs and dabs is all you really need to get the point across with this. And then come back in with my brighter gold in some of these places and add my little gold shiny bits. Okay, looks good. And then in the part up here, there's kind of some filigree details. So with the lighter color, I'm gonna just kind of do some little lines and dabs across. And then right about here, just switch over to my mid-tone color in that turquoise area. Okay. And then in my teacup itself, I'm gonna get my reddish and just do a few little rose-like shapes. It's kind of mimicking the same colors as our rose up top, so kind of that orangey beige or orangey color down low, and then a more pinkish one on this side, the reddish one in the middle. I'm going to get my gray and add it to that pink. I need it to be similar to that background color, so I'm going to get a little bit of that turquoise and add it to my pink. There we go. Right, and then my greens. I really should probably have this, do this at the same time as my background, or, you know, as the flowers up top so that they match. All right, that looks good enough. Let's get a little bit of that burnt umber, burnt sienna with the orange. Make a center there. Get my darkest red, make a center there. Get my magenta, make my center there, and then I'm going to call that good. It's probably a little bit low. Probably should have moved it up just slightly, but I don't know, we'll see. All right, let's work on our roses now. I'm going to get a little bit of this Naphthol pink. I really like this color. It's so pretty. It's like just a really nice like mid-tone pink with a nice like coral base. Really lovely. So I'm going to kind of use it to make my little bud. That's right there. And there's another like small one kind of coming down there, and one sort of tucked in over here. Okay, then up here there's a very light colored one. A little bit more kind of orangey tone right there, and then it's going to be more white on that side. So get the white just on the tip of that brush. Just pull down. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to get that white, brush it through here. I've got some of that kind of orangey color, so I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to just push down through and let it kind of blend down. Then we get some of that mid-tone color and go over the top. Kind of blend it in. A little bit more of that lightish white color. Maybe not as bright, but come into my dark area here and pull a few petals coming down. Go over the top of my leaf. And then kind of dab a few at the top to soften that off. I need to create that bowl shape right there. So I'm going to get a little bit more of that kind of yellow gold, a little bit more of my white. This is kind of cadmium, or this is like the India yellow with a little bit of that Naphthol pink in it, and then white. And I'm gonna try to shape off that. I'm gonna bring this up a little bit, close that off a little bit more. And maybe get a little bit more yellow. Dab a little bit of yellow inside this. Okay. A little bit more of that coral. And then I kind of lost my dark in here. So I'm going to get that Naphthol red, a little bit of the burnt sienna. Just come back in here. Whoops, it got some blue in there. Didn't mean for that. Maybe a little tiny touch of the Pyrrole orange with that Naphthol. Just kind of in some of these mid-tone areas, I kind of lost my mid-tones, so we'll lay those back in a little bit and then come back through with some of the lighter colors on top. Go back with my whitish. Maybe get a little bit more yellow with the midtones. Maybe not so white. India yellow and white. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Alright, let that set. I think I made that one a little bit big, but it is what it is. Alright, so with this big one, I'm going to start with the coral colors over here. Get that Naphthol pink with some white on it. Try to kind of close off that shape. And over here it's going to stay pretty soft. I'm going to use a little bit of the Ultramarine Blue to gray out these petals. On my dark side. Okay. Okay, so they're kind of tied up around, kind of enclosing the center. As they come out, they're kind of overlapping each other a little bit, but staying pretty tight towards the center. And then as they come out farther, they're sort of opening up, and you're seeing these, some of them at the very bottom kind of falling out towards us. So I'm trying to kind of capture that look. Getting some yellow. I'm kind of pulling in. I'm getting some of that grayed off color. Sort of where they go in. So these are kind of the ones that are sort of on the outer, and then there's a nice dark kind of border right in here that sort of creates that line all the way around the petals. So that should sort of blend out into that a little bit, and then we'll start to see some petals kind of coming up from that and curving up. This brush is kind of small for this. It's not big enough to do the petals in one go, but really need to be starting closer to the flower first and then coming down. So we'll start up here. And there's artists that do just this kind of paintings, which are really, really well done. So we're kind of trying to do a shortened version of it, more simplified version of it. But you can always use your finger and kind of, push off that edge to soften off the bottom of these petals. And that'll kind of help the transition between the petals too, from looking too harsh. So like down here, you can kind of use your finger at the bottom of those petals to help. I'm trying to kind of just overlap them the best I can to make them look like they're all going up over towards the center of that flower rose. Okay, and then right here is that bottom of it where it moves down. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let me get some of the darker color, put in some of the petals over here with a little bit of the brighter color. I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think I'm going to do much more to it. And get some of the Pyrrole orange and do a few little soft There we go. All right, we'll leave that. Let's go ahead and use that red for these ones. And then the magenta. So this one is going to have the pink. So more magenta. And it's pretty dark overall, so we'll start with this tone, but it doesn't get much brighter than this. And I'm going to get that Quinacridone and Ultramarine Blue for my shadow color for these ones that are in the dark over here. And let's bring that up a little bit. Let's bring that lip up a little bit right there. And go a little bit darker here. There we go. Add some of that darker magenta in here. I didn't go very dark back here, and I need it a little bit darker than this. So wipe that off. Just get that magenta. The magenta's pretty dark on its own. So, yeah, if I can get it in there, I can get a pretty dark color. If I add a little bit of the blue to it, it'll go nice and dark on me. There we go. Probably should have done this one before I did this one since it's overlapping it, but it's okay. We can add a petal here, kind of sort of overlapping it a little bit right there. And then I'm going to get the white and add it to this kind of magenta mix that I've got going over here. It's got some gray in it. And this time I'm going to kind of leave my brush strokes sort of showing a little bit. There we go. If they get too kind of matchy, you can kind of come back in or use your finger to kind of try to blend them off. And then I want it to continue up over right here, so there, and then maybe a little bit of highlight there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and do this one here. Get some white. And get a little bit of the darker red for the center of it. That was magenta and the black, I think, from before. There we go. Just a little bit. All right, let's get a little bit of this for some of these. Just a tiny bit of white sort of coming around the sides of them. Buds aren't open yet, so let's go ahead and grab a round brush and some white, and I'll just get a little bit of this kind of creamy color here, this kind of orangey tone. We'll dab some little bits, and if we kind of double load it fairly thick with white and cream, then we can just kind of do this in one go. We don't have to come back and do anything else later. And then let's put a few in the middle, because I feel like there's some spots in here that could probably use some. But yeah, we're going to put a leaf over that. So I think that'll be good enough. And then I can come back in here with white and just kind of touch up just a few of the little petals with a little bit more spice. And if it looks too much, you can use your finger to kind of dab it off. But I'm pretty happy with that. The vase needs the not vase, but the teacup needs some work. It's a little dark. So we'll get our white here. See if we can a little bit of unbleached titanium. And get it a little bit brighter. Get some yellow in my white here. A little bit brighter color on my rose. And then let's get some green. Now these two greens are transparent, so I need to add some of this green that has the opaque white in it. Otherwise it won't cover anything. It'll just look transparent on my rose, and I don't want that. So there we go. I can always come back in with some darker color and add it later, but and then I'm going to kind of come in here, my darker green, get a little bit of this black, add it. Some yellow. Add my sort of dark stems and things to my roses if they need it. A little bit of darker. Shading here and there. Yeah, I don't love the teacup color. I think I got it way too dark. So I'm trying to get it lighter, but it's not easy because it's already kind of done. So I should have done this way before I did any detail. I'm just trying to wipe off the edges there. And then let's go ahead and come back in here with this black with our, I guess the Filbert will work. Go up underneath the teacup there. And blend out a little bit more of that shadow. There we go. All right, and if you want to, you could, you could make a line for your background or whatever. I don't think I'm gonna worry about where this starts and stops, but I do kind of want this to blend out a little bit, so I'm gonna get some of that background color and just blend it out into my dark gray so that it's not so weird looking right there. There we go. And there's a little bit of a shadow over here that I kind of don't have that I can add. Sort of shadows up underneath this on that part of the teacup right there. Just to help define that edge a little bit. And I can do the same thing on this side. I'm kind of just blending a corner of the brush with that color so that it's only where I want it to go. It definitely looks better with that white on there. A little bit brighter on my teacup edge. I feel like there might be a little bit more of a shadow up underneath it where it's bending forward towards us. So it might get a little bit of glaze. And just right here, just right up underneath that edge. Mark that out. darker on that side. It's definitely kind of a messy look. This is definitely not my normal style because I like a little bit cleaner look sometimes, but
it looks great.
I think it looks all right.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's fun.
Got a question about the traceable.
Uh-huh.
So I know that they're available for your Patreon members. Did you ever set it up to where you could purchase individually?
Yeah, you can purchase them for $3.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. The newer ones, the older ones, you can do it by request. I'll set it up for you, but I haven't gone through and done it to all the older posts. But the newer traceables are all available in the last few months. Ever since they made it available, it's been so. I don't know how many months it's been, but it's been a few months.
Okay.
We've been doing that. Alright. Just gonna try to get that. That shadow is being a real pain in the butt. I think it's because it's on such a dark color on such a light background, so it's just. I'm gonna put a little bit of this color on this side just so that it's not the only place that I. There we go. Okay. Still not 100%. Not sure what to do to the teacup thing. I think barring having the teacup to look at, this is about as good as it's going to get because this is my own kind of imagination of what it should look like. It's probably not quite accurate, but you'll have photos you can look. you can look up some photos of your own of this. I kind of hurt myself by having to move it up a little bit, but kind of centered a little bit better on the, in the space. So, what were you saying?
I like the feel.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing here. Just trying to playing with the background here, trying to get this and this to merge a little bit visually so that it doesn't. If you have it a little bit closer to the same value, then you don't notice the details as much. So that's my thinking, is just like if I kind of just homogenize it a little bit and kind of mess it up a little bit, then it's not going to be like as obvious that it looks funky. Yeah, so having that teacup and this sort of blend out into each other a little bit. And same thing for back here. And then it goes nice and dark. All right, I think that's a little bit better. I might come back in with just a slight bit of edge with the kind of that brownish warm color. Okay. All right, but I do like the flowers. Let's go ahead and splatter a little bit. That always helps. Maybe splatter with a kind of a reddish. Could do red or purpley. Maybe get a little bit of the blue in there. Do kind of a gray purple. Little bit of glaze to make it stick, just like a little bit of glue added with the water and everything. Yeah, there we go. A little teacup. Line it with, let's color. Let's do a light blue, I guess. And I've painted, you can see the pink still there, so you could leave it pink. It's actually not bad. You could paint the edges gold on something like this, would be really pretty. Or probably wouldn't do black, maybe a brown, burnt umber or something like that. Normally I paint my edges black, but on something like this, a metallic could probably be prettier. Just go with the theme of it a little bit better. This is not showing up at all. Oh well. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. And leave a comment if you want to see more in this Teacup series. I've really enjoyed doing them with you guys. It's one of my favorite series that we've done over the years. So it's kind of a newish one. We haven't done a ton of them in this, probably 8, maybe more. The large flower series seems to have run its course. Those videos aren't as popular as they were when we first did it, so I'm kind of looking for new things. So I like to do these running series of videos though, because they kind of give you multiple paintings that you can do for your home, you know, especially when you're practicing. So you have several that you can end up with that kind of create a little themed, you know, thing.
Right. You got a question?
Okay.
They would like to know, were you mixing glaze into your acrylics to make them thinner?
Not always, just in certain times when I did the I'm adding a little bit of the green glaze here in some places just to kind of mimic what I did over here because I like that look. Softens off the transition between the teacup and the leaf there. When I'm glazing, I use or when I'm adding a lot of water to my paint, then I use the glaze. So that's when I was doing it over here. I was adding water to try to get, you know, that shadow to blend out, and it helped. Gives it a little bit of an extra drying time, and it also helps keep the paint from not sticking, you know, if you do multiple layers. So you want, with heavy body acrylics, they're more pigment than, they've got higher concentration of pigment in them than binder versus some other, you know, more like craft acrylics. I never had to worry about that when I was painting with craft acrylics because they're mostly binder. And so they have plenty of glue to stick onto the canvas. But with something like this, you need to be aware of that. So if you're adding a lot of water, you have to add some sort of a medium. It doesn't have to be glazing medium. It could be matte medium or any other acrylic polymer medium that will allow the paint to stick better to and adhere to the canvas better. So.
And speaking of mediums, that's what you went over in Saturday's bonus videos.
I did, yeah. I'll show you the
There's
little
the
practice.
final in the beginner series, just kind of wrapping it up. And
yeah, we talked about mediums, and we talked about varnishing and framing, and kind of showed the different glaze or different texture things, and all about the 3 different kinds of mediums that you would use in your painting, you know, as far as like gessos or gel mediums or texture mediums and different kinds of additives to your paint, not just paint, but, you know, glazing medium, different things. So I explained kind of, as best I know, the different ways of using those and why you would need them. So yeah, that was all part of that beginner series. That was the last one. When there's, I want to say 6 or 7 that we went over, maybe 6 different key things. But we started out with supplies. We did, so supplies. So basic, just, you know, what are acrylics, canvases, what kind of canvases you need. what kind of brushes. And then there's a whole another one that was just brushes and brush control, brush and water control, color mixing, all about that, how you mix and match colors, what is the color wheel, what kind of colors should you pick, and why. And then we did techniques, so things like blending and dry brushing and just all the techniques that you'd want to know, for learning how to paint. And then we did composition and design, and then we did this last time we did kind of all of the final little things. There was the color one. I was trying to find one to show you while I was talking about it, but I kind of thought about it too late. So yeah, and then this last one was all about kind of just the final, like how to clean your brushes and how to take a photograph and take it from photograph all the way to a finished painting. All the steps that you need to think about for doing that. How to look at the contrast and how to decide if your painting's done and all of that stuff. So yeah, as comprehensive as we can make it. There's several hours of teaching. I want to say at least 10 hours or more. I haven't counted them, but
the one on Saturday was close to 3 hours.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. There's got to be at least
A bunch of hours.
Right. Yeah. They were at least each 2 hours, I think, something like that. So anyhow, you can look on my website if you want to see more of that. That's thankfulart.com, and sign up for Patreon there if you want to. It'll take you over to Patreon where you can sign up for access to that beginner series, which is at the $5 tier right now in 2025, February. May go up in the future, who knows, but for now, that's what it is. So thank you guys so much, and thank you to our patrons. They are wonderful, and they help make these kind of videos stay free for everybody, and help keep the lights on and all that fun
Chocolate in the
stuff.
belly.
Right, exactly. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.